Hi, I'm Serge, and I want to talk to you about what I've been working on. It's a new site called Babka Social that I'm hoping to get launched really soon. Babka Social is a social media site, especially for Jews and allies, including family, friends, or others who'd like to be part of our community. I'll be doing a short presentation, and during the live stream, we'll be able to have a good collaborative chat, and we'll be doing those regularly. So before I go on, I just want to say that I'll be talking very directly about anti-Semitism and hate speech, and I know that can be a difficult topic for some people. So I'm offering you this content warning. If these topics are difficult for you, you may want to skip this recording, or if you find yourself triggered, just please do take care of yourself. So let's jump in. Let's start with the current state of social media as it relates to Jews. Just about a year ago, in June of 2021, the Anti-Defamation League put out a plea to Facebook to crack down on hate speech, and in particular, anti-Semitism on their platform. The ADL found that there were thousands of posts on Facebook saying things like Hitler was right, and according to the ADL, Facebook largely doesn't remove those kind of posts. And Twitter isn't that much better, with a very low response rate toward hate speech and anti-Semitism in particular. And I myself have seen Twitter not remove posts that, for example, deny the Holocaust, or say that Jews are devil worshippers, or accuse Jews of blood libel. And the Fediverse is somewhat better, but I've also been harassed for speaking out on Jewish issues there. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Fediverse, it's a topic that I'm sure we'll cover a lot going forward, but just let's leave it for now. So let's talk a little bit about what's called Jewish Twitter, which is really just a collection of Jewish accounts on Twitter. I'm going to start off by saying that I'm really glad that there are Jews who can post on Twitter and that they feel comfortable posting there. At the same time, Jewish accounts on Twitter regularly receive harassment and hate speech, and while there are accounts that people follow, Twitter doesn't provide much cohesion in terms of a community. It's really just a few shining accounts in an otherwise kind of bleak world. Lastly, my experience is that Twitter can sometimes evolve into hate speech, especially Islamophobia, and that makes me uncomfortable, and I'm sure it makes others uncomfortable as well. So what's our response? Well, in response to all this, I decided that we need something different. A new social media platform that is Jewish focused, where Jews can be out and open and connect with each other. And it needs to be community centered, which is another way of saying that it's not looking to be $1 billion business, but instead really focusing on the needs specifically of its own community first and foremost, and have the needs of the Jewish community at the center of its actions. And that dovetails nicely into talking about community values, and those community values need to be spelled out clearly, and the policies need to follow from those community values. And by policies, I don't just mean what members of the site can do, but also a way to measure the site's own actions against its stated values and its own policies. Lastly, it was and remains important that a site like this not live entirely in isolation, that it not be entirely blocked from the outside world, but instead be a portal by which we can engage the outside world and that they can engage us. Because of my focus on the community, in April of this year, I put out a questionnaire which I advertised on Twitter and on the Fediverse, and I got some really amazing results that I want to share with you all. When people were asked to talk about what was important to them in a social media site, a lot of people responded that they wanted good policies and values, and that it was important to them that a site that they join have that. And that was very affirming to me because I feel the same way. The next thing people talked about most often was that they valued a large community. And my interpretation of this is that people don't want to come online to a site with just 2 or 3 other people, but they want a large, vibrant community of people that they can connect with. And obviously we can't promise them a large community on day one, But what we can do is connect our community with the outside world through federation and hopefully build not only our community, but also build those connections to the outside. So users will have the ability to connect with others from the outside and then grow our community organically. One thing that I need to think about in this journey we're talking about is how the site's going to pay for itself. Many sites online are paid for by advertisement, but what many people said in the questionnaire was that they preferred to pay directly and not be subjected to ads. And I think there's a lot of opportunity here to explore funding models that don't involve the kind of surveillance capitalism that makes many people uncomfortable, and that includes myself. Lastly, several people wrote in the comments how they felt marginalized even in other online Jewish spaces. They asked questions about whether they'd be welcomed if they're queer, or if they'd be welcomed if they're pro-Israel, or if they'd be welcomed if they disagreed with certain Israeli governmental policies, and so on. Some of what people told me privately is really tragic, and I want to thank those people who put in the time to write about their struggles. And while those stories were very sad, I found the fact that people were talking about this very affirming, because it told me that people were struggling to find a community that was accepting and welcoming, and that was the same thing I experienced. And that brings us to today. The questionnaire gave me amazing answers, but though something where I thought that something we could meet up and talk at the same time would be great. And that's why we're doing these live streams regularly. So while I'm working on the technical parts, I want to share with you all the goals and also start a dialogue about some of these values and policies so I can understand what's important to you. So let's do that. Let's talk a little bit about the Babka social values, our mission statement, our value statement, and then go from there. So this is a draft, and it's just an early draft of our mission statement, and I'm just going to read it. It says, our mission is to foster an online community where Jews and allies can engage with each other and the outside world in meaningful, positive, and authentic interactions. And that's really what I'm going for. I'm really going for a space online where we can be ourselves, we can be Jews, and we can be authentic and connect, and also connect with the outside world. All of those are very important to me. So with that, let's talk a little bit about Babka Social's values. I'm still working on the final language, and I also invite your comments and your ideas, but I want to give you all a preview of the draft Babka Social value statement. The values are really the cornerstone of the site. The values are everything we're doing encapsulated, and everything else should flow from there. So it's really important that we get these values right as we're building the site out. So I'm going to go through them, and I'd love to hear your feedback. And the first value we have is that the site needs to be Jewish focused. Babka Social is a site for Jews and Jewish allies. That focus is important not just for our cohesion, but because our needs might be different from other communities' needs. And we need to be focused first and foremost on serving the Jewish community. And the second value is diversity. Diversity can mean a lot of things. Diversity means that we stand up for LGBTQ, LGBTQ plus and queer members. It means we stand up for Jews of all ethnicities, including Jews of color and Jews of different backgrounds. It means we stand up for a diversity of opinions in our community. It means that we stand up for folks with disabilities, and so on. I know I'm missing a bunch of specifics, but that's really where I'm looking for you all to really engage me and give me your feedback. I feel like we're going to be exploring diversity as we build the site together. The third value is safety. And again, safety can mean a lot of different things, but in this context, I'm thinking about personal safety and emotional safety. That means we'll have community guidelines on what we will and won't allow on the site, or maybe things that we will allow but only with a content warning, and so on. And the fourth value is privacy and data liberation. What I mean here is that we take your privacy seriously and we won't be engaging in surveillance capitalism. We won't be selling your personal data or sharing it with third parties. We won't even be collecting any data that we don't need to, and wherever possible, we'll be avoiding the use of trackers. And as part of the data liberation, if you do decide to leave, we're going to make it as easy as possible for you to download your data or delete your account. We believe that you'll want to be part of this community because we're serving you well and not because you feel like you have to. We believe in transparency, and by that we mean that our default position is to be open with our community as much as possible. If we're exploring policy changes, we'll discuss it with you. If we're looking at changing technologies, we'll be discussing it with you. If we need to take administrative action, such as defettering with another service, and we'll be open and transparent about that too. We believe in giving back. Babka Social runs nearly entirely, or will run nearly entirely, on free and open source software, and we believe in returning open source code back to the community, even if we're not legally required to do so. And we'll also try to release as much as we can as free and open source software as we go through. And we believe in thoughtful collaborations. That means if we do partner with a third party or a vendor, we're going to be thinking about issues around that vendor or that collaboration partner and try to make decisions that are right not only for us but the community at large. And lastly, and as part of this, we believe in iteration. We believe that our needs will evolve over time and that our policies and even possibly these values are going to evolve over time, and we need to change along with those. So, let's talk. What are your thoughts on a Jewish social media site? What are your thoughts on the mission statement? What are your thoughts on the value statement? What other topics might you want to discuss in future presentations or live streams? Or, if you're a Jew online or a Jewish ally online, what's on your mind? I really want to hear from you. I invite you to attend the live streams, and I invite your feedback. So thank you for listening, and I hope that we get to connect real soon. Thanks.